Eliances, where entrepreneurs align.
Alliances, 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 where entrepreneurs align.
Welcome to Alliances, the only place where entrepreneurs align.
Oh, am I excited today? Yes, it's going to be exciting. First of all, too, is I want to thank you. It's always been an honor to be able to get the feedback we continue to get from interviewing so many amazing people. Keep the feedback coming. Again, as we continue to get it, even from one of our earlier interviews with Richard Branson. We continue to get those feedback. We're probably going to have him come on again because of the amount of feedback we've been getting. But I'm very excited and honored today. Oh, it's going to be great. So make sure you stay tuned through the entire part of this. We have with us, first of all, is wouldn't you like to have more happiness in your life? How about maybe doubling your income? How would that feel? Or even tripling your freedom. That's right, having more time on your hands. That's the golden gift of all. Well, we have with us today is Amisha Patel. That's right, Amisha Patel. She's a former university professor, owner of the Tree of Life Success series. Now you can reach her at Tree of Life Success, and you also see the link below and everything. But Amisha, welcome to the show. I'm so excited about interviewing you today.
Thank you, David. I'm excited to be here.
Now, we've spoken a number of times in the past, so I'm glad that we've got you now on the air to really be able to share your thoughts, share your message and everything of that. Now, you started off as a university professor. I mean, that's quite great, a great position and everything. Why did you decide then to leave that, especially, again, at a university level?
For me, there was something really missing in public life, and I would say it's philosophy or a sense of meaning. So I had this, when I was a young professor, I had the advantage/disadvantage of being thrown every kind of course that the department wanted to hand me because I had no seniority. So I ended up teaching like 20 different types of courses within, like 5 or 6 years. And I had hundreds of students in that time. And it was in being in that space of almost like brainwashing myself into certain ways of being, which for a professor, it means listening, and it means being able to mirror ideas. And it also means helping people grow their thought process in a really elegant way. And so I couldn't not be that anymore, just from having so many courses to teach. I was walking around in the world, meeting people in professions that had nothing to do with academia, and I couldn't not be a philosopher. I couldn't not be a writer. I couldn't not be somebody who was really on a more meaningful level, listening to people and then giving them a sense of who they are and a sense of instruction, because that's what being a professor is. So I did accidentally shift from being a professor in the classroom to being a philosopher in the world.
Right. That's great. And again, and you left academia, you started your own company. You can be reached at treeoflifesuccess.com. But you have now, consulted over 1,000 clients?
Yeah. I've had mostly entrepreneurs. I've coached actors, actresses. I've had celebrities, public figures. I've worked with lots of other coaches. But I've also worked with 3 goat farmers. So I've had this massive diversity in the clients that I've worked with, and they're more similar than you'd expect.
Quite diverse from one side, another side, upside, and all the sides. I mean, that's quite diverse. What kind of link have you seen, though, that most of your clients have? Like, if there was a common denominator amongst them, what would that be?
For me, I noticed that there's a great deal of depth. So when people are creating something in the world, I think sometimes people with more mainstream careers, they imagine wealthy people as being more superficial or more driven by money. And what they'd be surprised by, if they do have that kind of thought process around the very wealthy people and creators, the reality is they are so deep. Their thought process is incredible, like a lot of times genius level creativity, and they care, so superficiality is the exact opposite of what they are. They all see things beyond the surface, and they are willing to think of things in new ways.
Now, again, we have with us Amisha Patel, former university professor, owner of the Tree of Life Success Series. Again, you can reach her. You'll see banners and various things below. Make sure you go to treeoflifesuccess.com. All right, so Amisha, what's someone going to find when they go to your website?
My website has different programs that I offer. So at this point, I've worked with, as you already said, I've worked with over 1,000 people. So I basically took the exact methodology that was helping all of them usually double their income in a year, increase their happiness exponentially, to the point of people who had anxiety and depression no longer felt those ways anymore. And with freedom, they're basically, they have more time than ever before. So, and the process is philosophy based. So what they're doing is going deeper instead of expanding wider in the world and doing more in the world. And it is that inner life that they're using to start exploding their businesses or whatever they're doing. So I have programs that teach people how to do that.
So what defines happiness?
To me, happiness is about having like an open heart. So we usually are in our brains, and we usually have this thought process that tells us that we are or are not sufficiently well. But to be happy is a feeling. So first and foremost, it's something that we, instead of take for granted, we feel it deeply. So happiness in many ways is an absence of fear, anxiety. It's the absence of depression, despair. Philosophically speaking, we talk about the existential side of life, things that have to do with existence, that usually we think about the heart or the soul when we think about existence, and that makes human life meaningful. So happiness is that ability to elevate emotionally into spaces that are, and depending on what type of discipline you're looking at, like in religion, they might sometimes call it enlightenment, and mental health therapy, happiness is usually defined as the absence of problems. So basically, when we have something that's a feeling that expands in a positive way and allows us to feel secure in the world, secure enough that we can have higher consciousness states like peace, to feel fun, to feel joy. Those are all the happiness feelings.
Well, what about too is with the, especially right now, all the social media and even more platforms incoming, that we've now come to, almost many of us have defined of seeing the wealthy and the images of that equaling success, because they're all up there smiling and jumping on their cars and houses and hot tubs and stuff, and we see that as being defined as happiness. But is it?
No, wealthy is usually, the side effect of wealth can usually be emptiness. In Buddhism, they call it the hungry ghosts. So it's like the more you have, the more you want. And it's like a never ending desire that you can't fill. And so wealth can really come hand in hand with a feeling of emptiness, and there's a pain that's behind that image. And then happiness usually comes hand in hand with helping. So a lot of times, because in our culture, helping professions make less money, usually we don't see people who are wealthy and happy. And so there's sort of a secret to how you can have both, but it's not common. Mm-hmm.
Excellent, excellent. And again, you're listening to me, David Kogan, host of the Eliances Hero Show. So make sure you go to Eliances.com. That's Eliances.com, because it's the only place where entrepreneurs align. And we have with us again Amisha Patel, former university professor, owner of the Tree of Life Success series. She can be reached at treeoflifesuccess.com. And you may even have the lifetime opportunity of seeing her in person at one of the various Eliances experiences, because she is a member of the Eliances community, part of the community. In fact, Amisha, why don't you share what it's been like to be part of the community? As a matter of fact, too, is you were at the last grand table.
I really love it. I think Alliances has this ability to bring together different types of people. So I think there's less of a focus on one profession, and there's this magic to meeting people that there's just a connection with. And I love meeting people without any agenda and just noticing that there's a good energy. So I find that often with Alliances.
And you're also part of the Eliances eBrain Trust.
Yes.
Great, good. So share with us maybe some of the success stories that you've had with your clients.
With the successes, it's like what I was just saying about usually with wealth, there's some level of emptiness, and with happiness, there's usually a helper type of identity that can sometimes be really challenging if there's any kind of financial distress. So for me, there's been this curiosity of how people can do what they love and also be completely supported financially, because money is a way of having experiences. So you can't be yourself. You can't really be your true self without money. And when you have that dream of climbing a mountain in Africa, that's something that's you, and you need the money to be you. So success for my clients has really been about making sure that those are all taken care of, that somebody is making plenty of money, doing what they love, but also happier than ever, and also have plenty of time to have the experiences that they were born to have. So when it comes to clients of mine in entertainment, they are in one of the most difficult industries because it's full of rejection. You never know when your next job is. And so for them, finding that sense of inner supportedness and connecting to their vision and trusting that vision in a deep and meaningful way and using philosophical processes, they've had incredible things happen for them. So this is, anything from people becoming lead actors in major network TV series to being already somebody who is in the public eye, and then learning how to discern opportunities when everybody wants to work with them, everybody wants to have their endorsement or whatever it might be. And so for them, they have problems of abundance. How do you choose, and how do you maintain your value? How do you maintain your joy? And so they're very interesting because they're kind of like the canary in the coal mine. Like the rest of us deal with certain uncertainty in our lives and in our careers, but they deal with it times 1,000. So finding that inner supportedness and a philosophical methodology that gives them a path. It's like having footing. It's having something beneath your feet, even in an unsteady career. So they are amazing success stories. Like people in entertainment thrive when philosophy is introduced to them. I've worked with a lot of coaches, and for them, it's really helpful because typically, I know the most recent statistic I saw, it was 80% of coaches make $20,000 a year or less. And the people who work with me, they end up making within 3 years, they're over 6 figures, and then it keeps going, usually doubling, and they do it in less time. So a lot of them are like, they have kids, or they have other passions, like they want to write or they want to speak. And so they're doing this in very little time compared to before. And it's amazing that philosophy can be the missing piece. So those are a couple examples for entrepreneurs. Usually, I would say there's an example where I was working with a salon owner, and she had her whole team, all her stylists work with me. And so what did philosophy do? They ended up selling 10 times as many memberships within the first month as ever before. So it's really strange how when you give people access to their deeper self, they can perform better without a focus on performance.
Have you seen any of the root causes in regards to something that's happened in their childhood that has caused them to be where they're at now? Like as far as holding back?
I have learned every single person has something from childhood that holds them back. And so what I love about coaching is that there's a future focus. So it's kind of like saying, I can focus on my damage and I can create a sense of self-victimization, or I could focus on the meaning of life and on a good life. So in philosophy, we talk about a good life, which is, basically we want to give everyone access to a good life is really the meaning of government. And so the philosophers who used to talk about a good life, it was, what is the composite of experiences that we want all people to have, or that we particularly value. And to me, that's what success is we have a good life. So, I find it really interesting that when people stop worrying too much about fixing the past, they feel free and they automatically have a new range of motion. Where do we put our thoughts? Do we put it on what didn't work before? Do we blame somebody? Do we embody victimization? Everyone's had really bad things happen, everyone. And it comes up and we talk about it when it comes up. But the beauty is that we can always dream and we can always make something new.
All right. So I think this is important too, is since you'd mentioned about that, what advice do you have for, whether it's children or whether it's the parents of children, to be able to instill those things to prevent, or at least somewhat maybe limit those limitations and negativity and stuff of that? Because we've got a lot of parents that are listening and watching our show, and I think this is a critical question to ask.
I agree with you. I think this is a really important question because if you remember, years ago, people used to talk about a midlife crisis. And when somebody hits a certain point in their life, they really wonder about what they've built and they doubt their career, they doubt their marriage, they doubt everything they've done, and they start feeling confined and constricted. And that's existential. That's like you get to a place where you wonder if this is really you or if there's something else that's you. And I've noticed that kids, especially teenagers, are starting to have what's similar to the midlife crisis in their young lives. So they're hitting this place where it's an existential crisis, and parents usually take it on as mental health issues, and they lovingly try to guide children to therapists and other helping professionals that can assist them to go through their feelings. But the only thing that helps with existential crisis or this existential void is having a new relationship to mystery. So if you think of the world as there's things we know and there's things we don't know. And an existential crisis is when what we don't know starts to feel like emptiness and starts to feel like everything is meaningless. And so you could see how if kids are suicidal or something like that, there's that component of they've lost a sense of meaning. So from my point of view, it's reconstructing a relationship to mystery, and it can start with whatever they were interested in when they were kids or whatever they're currently interested in that doesn't have answers. So things like curiosity about outer space or about the deep sea, or even about, kids can talk about things like God or about creator, like those are things sometimes kids do have on their mind, like where do we come from? Pyramids, other mysteries that are unresolved on the planet. Basically, when kids start learning that they can be curious and have imagination around things that have no answers, they feel a lot better. So that whole existential crisis, that they experience early now compared to my generation, there's a huge solution in starting to feel like the unknown is full of possibility and magic. Like looking at the stars makes you feel in awe, and that's what they need.
Absolutely. Well, wonderful. Well, Amisha, you inspire your clients to keep doing big work and create happiness. That's a hero. Amisha Patel, former university professor, now owner of the Tree of Life Success Series. Make sure that you reach out to her at treeoflifesuccess.com. And Amisha, we hope to see you soon at another Eliances experience and maybe at the next brand table.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. You got to dance with me a little bit.